you have your organizational culture, right? And then you have your security culture. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how security culture relates to the overall organizational culture, and how do you marry these two?
Uh, well, some might say marriage is a very traditional institution. I think it's really interesting. I mean, I've just finished writing a couple of chapters for a book, and culture it's one of the hard areas. It's a very hard area to deal with. We talk about organizational culture, and then we talk about security culture. So I guess the thing that I push back to people to seriously think about is, why would you have one over the other? Why have security culture? You know, we do talk about the importance of security being everybody's responsibility. As soon as we create two, sort of in our minds or on an organizational sheet or anything, as soon as we create that, we're sort of like saying, you know, this is the organizational culture, this is the security culture. And you're like, some people can go, well, that's separate. And as soon as you separate it, people feel like that's not my responsibility, which is really important, that whole sense of responsibility. I guess the other thing about culture which really interests me is that organizational culture organizational culture is, you know, the employees within an organization, the people, and the values that they associate with. But those values, a majority of those values, have already been embedded within them before they even started work. So actually, one of the things that came from my research, I suddenly got to realize that actually, depending on your definition of culture, and for me, I have a very specific definition of culture, it's all around values, then most of those values are actually developed, embedded when you're born. And through the early years of your life, you then go into a working environment and you take those values in with you. And you normally try to move towards organizations that share your values, like Google, for example. You know, and it's great for Google because they promise these values. It really pulls in some amazing people, totally amazing people doing totally amazing things. Okay, right? But then it hits a problem, because then people start to, within Google, they go, yeah, your values aren't the same as mine in some circumstances. And we've seen that, you know, in the US and in the UK and in Europe, we've seen Google employees leaving the offices, standing outside and saying, I'm not happy. So I think it's a really interesting thing when you're looking at security culture. One, do we really want to have a separate culture? Don't we want security to be just the organization, the way things get done in its organization? Two, organizational culture is actually generally based upon the values that everybody brings to an organization. So really, is, you know, what for me is organizational culture? I think it's like there's a crossroads there that goes on, and part of what security is about trying to find how it's going to act as a linchpin through all of that. And that means about understanding what are the values which are prevalent in your group. And the reason why this is really important is that when you go back to behavioral economics and understanding how behaviors are formed and influenced, I did an interview with a guy called Dan Ariely, one of the world's best known behavioral psychologists, and he was pointing out that actually values are a really big driver of decisions. And that's why you've got to look at culture, okay? But you've got to understand what the values are prevalent within your organization, and you've got to thread it through your strategy.
New episodes of Cyberwork are available every Monday at 1 p.m. Central. And don't forget to claim your free month of Infosec skills. Sign up using the code CYBERWORK and you'll get unlimited access to hundreds of courses, hands-on labs, certification practice exams, skills assessments, and more. Use code CYBERWORK for Infosec skills.